So, VR is coming to F122 then, and I've been lucky enough to play it early. Big shout out to EA, by the way, for making that possible. So I thought I'd give you guys a bit of a deep dive into, I guess, how it works and what to expect. So first of all, I'm going to give you my first impressions, just what I think of it, basically, having played it now for a couple of hours, what I think of it and how it performs for me. Then we're going to have an interview with David Williams, who's a senior producer over at EA, who basically heads up the VR department. And then I'm going to conclude at the end of the video. So before we get started, I think it's important to highlight what specs I've got in my PC, because VR is PC only for F122. And it does need a fairly beefy computer, but personally, I've got an RTX 3080 Ti, and I've got an AMD 3900X with 64 gig of RAM. Just to give you an idea of what I'm running, I'm also running a Fanatec GT DD Pro wheels. So pretty good computer, so hopefully I should be able to run it really well, and indeed I can. So how'd you get started then? Well, I've got an Oculus Quest 2, and I've played it via Airlink. It doesn't officially support Airlink, but it just works. So I'm not going to run through exactly how to set up Airlink, but basically you just go into the headset, you launch Airlink, which then just connects to your computer as if it was plugged in, the same as if it was just any other VR headset. And then from there, you can launch everything else from your PC. You can also launch it from the game. If you go through to the Oculus menu, launch Steam VR first. Again, I've done this from PC, but launch Steam VR, then just launch the F1 game. Launch it in VR mode if you do it from desktop. If you do it from the headset, it will automatically launch in VR mode. And that's it. You're in. You're ready to go. It's as simple as that. The game loads up. It's all in VR mode. First thing you'll see is the menus and that kind of thing. It is in cinema mode, they call it. Basically, it's like having a cinema screen in front of you that displays the whole game. That's the way that all of the menus and the on-screen displays and the setup and the, replays and pretty much everything apart from being sat in the car is on this cinema style screen. Actually, it's quite a clever way of doing it, because it means that rather than having to create effectively a separate game with separate menus, you've got the same game in front of you. So it guarantees that they've not missed anything, or there's nothing that's going to be particularly buggy. It is just like you're sat in front of your monitor, but you're just in the VR headset. So it's actually really quite a clever way of doing it. But as soon as you select to drive a car, you're in the full VR experience. You can look around you, and it is actually really, really immersive. We know that the F1 game has got very good graphics. We know it's very detailed, and actually it really pays off in VR. Even in the garage, you look around you and you can see so much stuff going on. On track as well, you can look over your shoulder, you can look up. Miami's a great example. The Hard Rock Stadium, looking up at that was absolutely amazing. The curbs, the cars, all the detail they've worked for years to get into the game really pays dividends, and it really, really does feel incredibly immersive, way more so than just using a monitor. I was honestly amazed at how different it felt. It really felt like I was almost playing a different game. I could tell it was the same game, but it felt like a different game because it was that much more immersive. I really felt like I was sat in an F1 car. I know that sounds stupid. I know that's the point of VR, but I can't really communicate to you how amazing it really does feel to actually feel like you actually are sat in an F1 car with everything to scale, and you can glance over at the mirrors and you can see your rivals racing past you, and it was amazing. It really was. And if you have got a PC with a wheel, I highly, highly recommend you try F1 in VR, because it really is very good. Now, how does it perform then? Well, again, I will say it is an early build. This isn't the final release. I have to put that in there. For the most part, it performs really, really well. It just works. I will say it is a little bit stuttery from time to time, particularly with the halo right in front of you. If you kind of move left to right like that, it does sort of stutter around a little bit, which isn't ideal. It's still perfectly playable, but again, it is an early build. It's important to stress that. I assume, and I'll be surprised if they don't fix that. And actually, I've got to be honest, I was actually impressed at how well it performed out of the box. Being an early build, I thought, it's gonna have a few issues, and I'm really gonna struggle. Actually, for the most part, it does perform really, really well, apart from a little bit of stuttering. I have seen a few bugs here and there, a few crashes, but I don't know if that's Steam VR, I don't know if it's the game. Again, early build, you can pretty much completely discount those. A few audio bugs, things like that. I'll be amazed if they don't fix the bugs that I found before launch. But on the whole, it really does perform really, really well. Again, I was super impressed. I'm not going to say flawless, but it's a phenomenal experience. And as I said, I really do highly recommend you guys get involved with VR. So, to take a bit of a deeper dive into VR then, including how it works and how they've integrated it into the game, any challenges they faced, I've got an interview with David Williams, who's a senior producer over at EA, and he basically heads up the VR experience, if you like. He's the one that oversees the integration of VR into the game. So let's have a chat with him. My first question for you then is what will change between the build that we've got in the current preview build and launch?
That's still work in progress, of course. I think most of the main features were there, but it's generally performance improvements, things like that. Obvious bug fixing that bugs you may have seen, but just trying to get it running as fast and smoothly as possible. Obviously with VR, you're drawing everything twice, so you're effectively running the game twice at the same time. So you do need a pretty hefty PC to run it. Basically, we don't want to limit the game and the VR experience to just people with amazing hardware.
So has there been much optimization required for VR? Has it just sort of been plug and play in that way, or have you had to optimize, the game to, I don't know, let's say grass, if the grass was perhaps being too consuming, you just maybe dumb the grass down or something like that? Has there been many optimizations in that way in the game for VR?
Yeah, there have been a lot of optimizations in the game. The coders have been working really hard, just trying to eke out any little of frame rate optimizations they possibly can, just to get the game running smoothly.
There has been changes, but they've been little background changes almost, or just tiny little changes that you're just not going to notice. Is that sort of the vibes that they're getting from the optimizations that's been made?
Yeah, pretty much. I think the goal has been to try and keep the experience as close as possible to the non-VR version of the game. As you're driving around, I think it'd be very hard to notice any difference at all between that and the non-VR version of the game.
So on the performance of it then, I did actually notice that, particularly when I was moving side to side with the Halo right in front of me, that the Halo was sort of, stuttering a little bit, and it wasn't a perfectly smooth experience. I mean, it was still playable, but it wasn't silky smooth. Is that going to be improved ahead of release?
Oh, yes, definitely. The build that you had is from a couple of weeks ago, I believe. That one, I can tell you, has been improved, fixed.
Nice. Okay, that definitely sounds like a positive change. And then just going back to potential changes. For starters, can you use VR with supercars that are new to the game this year?
Yes, you can. I mean, basically, any time that you're in the driver's seat, whatever car it is, you'll be in VR. The menus themselves are in a virtual cinema.
Is the vision in the future potentially to make full VR menus? I remember back on F1 2010, the whole menu was sort of in the paddock almost. Is there any immediate plans to do it like that, or for now is the cinema sort of style screen going to stay and it is just going to be in car at least for now?
The main thought behind what we did this year was, if someone buys a VR headset, they're not buying it to look at menus, they're buying it to sit in the cockpit and race against people. We decided that we wanted to spend our time creating the most immersive experience in the cockpit as possible, and not taking time away from optimizing that experience by working on menus and things like that.
I noticed for me personally, in a race, I did miss the on-screen display a little bit, because obviously you're sort of restricted to cockpit cam, and I know you can change your brake bias and thing. Your MFD is still there. Will any of those elements be introduced back into VR for F1 22?
What we decided to do at the start was basically make the experience as clean as possible. We didn't want to sort of take the player out of that immersive experience by sticking loads of UI elements on the screen in front of them. But you can go into the HUD customization and you can switch on each of the elements and put them in the position on screen wherever you want to.
I didn't realise that. I may miss that in my build. I'll have to go and have another little play. I wasn't sure. I noticed it was off, and I did go into the VR menu. And I like the fact that you can choose to either stick the sort of pause menu stuff to your head, or just have it static. But I didn't realise you could potentially switch on the UI elements. I'll have to have a play at that. Thanks for that. And then in the producer event that we had with Lee, he mentioned that you guys work with some sort of external company to get VR over the line. Is that right? Are you able to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, we worked with a team called Behaviour based in Montreal. They have a development team over there who pretty much did all of the VR feature for us.
Presumably you chose them because of their expertise. Presumably they've got a lot of previous experience of VR, so you wanted to bring in their expertise. Is that what it was?
Yeah, they've worked on VR projects before. We had confidence that they could do the right job for us.
How long has it taken you guys to integrate VR into the game? Has it been just 1 year? I know you release a game every year, or has it been a multiple year thing? How long has it taken?
It's been just over a year now. Yeah, I think we started it beginning of 21.
So it sounds like it was quite a relatively seamless thing then. To be honest, I expect you to say, "Oh no, it wasn't one. It was 2, 3, 4 years we worked on this for." So that's okay, fair enough. So what would you say is the biggest hurdle that you feel like you've had to overcome to get VR working in the game? I mean, that could be performance point of view. That could be perhaps integrating this external team. I mean, think as broadly as you want. But yeah, what in your opinion, what is the biggest hurdle, if you could pick one hurdle out to getting VR in the game and working?
I think the biggest hurdle has to be the performance. The job the team has done in optimizing the game to run at the speed and the smoothness that it's running is they've done such a great job.
Nice. And then on the hardware then, so have you got a sort of PC spec that you recommend? I mean, I'm lucky enough to be running a 3080 Ti, so luckily I've got quite a lot of power in my PC. So have you published, or are you going to publish a sort of a recommended spec? Because as you said, it is a lot more demanding. If someone can run F1 normally, they may not be able to run VR, at least to a smooth enough standard for your brain to be able to cope.
Looking at around 2070, probably medium settings at a decent frame rate. I think it should be probable to run it on like a 1660 Ti, but obviously that would be on much lower settings.
Well, that seems pretty good actually for VR. Are you guys going to publish a recommended spec? Is that the plan, or don't really know yet?
Yeah, as I say, we're still optimizing the performance, and we'll have a better idea of exactly what machines it should run on.
Sure. Okay. Stick with the hardware side. Obviously, as you mentioned, VR is PC only at the moment. Are you able to talk any more about the possibility of VR on console?
Well, I think the main reason we did it on PC first was this is our first experiment with VR. So we just wanted to do it on one thing at a time, get it right, get it feeling right, and get that done and dusted. There's no plans as yet to do anything else, but that's not to say that it's not going to happen. Teasing.
I like it. All right, so we'll have to keep our eyes on you guys for the future for that one. Yeah, no worries. At the moment, our preview build is only on Steam, so it uses Steam VR. But obviously, the game is also coming out on Origin and Epic stores. Have you built your own kind of integration similar to Steam VR on both Origin and Epic? How does it work?
It will work on Steam, Origin, and Epic, but you will need to have Steam and Steam VR installed so that it can run on Origin and Epic. Okay,
so even if you buy the game through Origin, you still have to have Steam installed with Steam VR installed in order for it to be able to run VR, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
So you've obviously published a list of headsets that will work with the game. Interestingly, I noticed you've excluded the Oculus Air Link from that.
I believe Air Link is still beta, isn't it?
Yes, it is actually. That could be why. Yeah.
I believe we're saying Oculus Rift S is supported. Quest 2 is supported with the link cable, Valve Index, and HTC Vive Cosmos. So is there a reason that other headsets aren't being listed there? They are the main ones that we're looking at the moment. We do have our QA team looking at some others, and they'll be added to the list if we don't find issues with them. Okay, so it's a case of that you want to make sure that they do work nicely with those headsets before just saying, yeah, it'll work with any headset. You actually want to effectively approve compatibility with them before you mention, okay, that makes sense, fair enough. Okay, all right, well, I think that's pretty much everything from me. As I said, I think you guys have done a great job so far on VR. It's been an amazingly immersive experience. Amazingly? We'll go with it. Amazingly. Yeah, go for that. Immersive experience for me. And I really am excited for other people to play it. I don't think they'll be disappointed, especially with the changes that you said have been made. I'll have to go and try and turn the OSD on myself as well, because I do want a lap counter, I do want to know my gaps live. But other than that, yeah, I'm really impressed. So you guys have done a great job, and hopefully, yeah, everyone else will think so too. Excellent, thank you. All right, well, cheers, David. Thanks for the call, and I'll catch you next time. All right, cheers. Bye. So there we go then, that was my F122 VR deep dive. Just to conclude then, what we learned in this video. In its current state, actually, it's really impressive. It just seems to just more or less just work out the box, and it's definitely worth trying if you've got the ability to play it on PC with a VR headset. There are a few performance issues at the moment, but it sounds like what David was saying, they're all going to be resolved by the time we get to release, so hopefully that won't be an issue. The only real one that particularly bothers me is the slight stutter when I go from side to side, which actually I couldn't capture for you guys to see, but it sounds like that one is going to be resolved, which is good. Overall, the way the game runs is great. I mean, I quite like the way they do cinema mode because it guarantees you're not going to miss anything. And it sounds like they've just concentrated completely on the in-car experience, which probably is the right decision anyway. So I do quite like the way they've done it. You can use VR in supercars, which means we are going to get a full cockpit for the supercars, which I'm very, very excited to try. You can also get a full on-screen display, which is something that I didn't realise for quite a while until speaking to David, actually. But it is disabled by default to give a really immersive experience. You have to go into the settings to re-enable the on-screen display if you want it in VR mode. They also use an external company to get VR over the line, but interestingly, they did it all within about a year or so. They integrated the external company
more like an internal department, and got it all done within a year. So potentially with F1 23 in a whole nother year's time, will there be some quite big changes, quite big improvements to VR if they think of managed to get all this done in a year? We'll have to wait and see. The minimum specs seem to be quite similar actually to the minimum specs anyway without VR. We'll have to wait and see the final published specs that sounds like they'll publish just before release, but it sounds like they've actually done a lot of optimization to get the specs down quite a bit. Sounds like there's no plans for consoles VR at the moment, but I'm sure, you know, when PlayStation release a new VR headset and stuff, that we'll hopefully get that in the future. Also, if you buy the game on PC on either the Epic Store or the Origin Store, you will need to install Steam and Steam VR in order to be able to play the VR version of the game. And also, other headsets could well work. Dave was being a little bit cagey with other headsets. It sounds like they really do want to improve them, but it also sounds like possibly other headsets, provided that they support Steam VR, or Steam VR supports the headsets, it probably will work in the game, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100%. Dave was being a little bit cagey because, yeah, they want to verify that the headsets definitely work nicely with the game, which is understandable. Anyway, guys, that's been my deep dive into VR. Hope you enjoyed this video. You may have noticed the t-shirt shames 3 times, which just shows you the amount of work that's gone into this video. So please do drop a subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.